Well, the principal thing that I helped Diana with was to find her voice, to find the center of her voice, to find the position of her voice, because she was very breathy in having, remained in roles of submissiveness and wanting to be accurate in the form of her essential responsibilities to the royal family. So what I did was to really allow her to feel the way that the breath would give a center to her voice and a gravitas to her voice, and then how she could focus it into the world when she was delivering herself on a very public stage, because she was mightily intimidated by the nature of giving a speech or a formal presentation. How did I meet Diana? Well, this was 1995, and Diana had just revealed the BBC Panorama documentary with Martin Bashir. And she felt really liberated by the nature of this, although it created a furore within establishment. But what she saw on screen, she was unsatisfied with in terms of her personal presentation. And so she talked about this with a confidant, with one of her intimates, who just happened to be a woman who was my patroness, who was an extraordinary benefactress to me and introduced me to some of the major clients. And so between the two of them, they decided that Diana should work with Stewart Pearce. And so I was brought in and met Diana, and immediately on meeting Diana, I met the full impact of this extraordinary human being and realized that I could be of inordinate assistance. There was something very extraordinary about the last meeting that I had with Diana, when she just, en passant, she was very instinctive and impetuous. And very intuitive. She suddenly said to me, wouldn't it be wonderful if we had a book? And in 2006, 17, 18, here was this remarkable situation where some of the principal women in the world were stepping forward to say, these men have oppressed us and we feel that this needs to cease. And of course, it was a complete mirroring of what Diana went through as she tried to negotiate her way through the patriarchy and to reorganize, as it were, from an idealistic point of view or from an ethical point of view, the way that the royal family had treated her. So the purpose of the book is really, really simple. It's to help those women who are beginning to see the impulse of liberation, to feel the courage, the strength, the bravery of what that moment is all about, and that the way that they can actually produce this level of liberation is through the liberation of their voices. Because as we all know, our voices are at the very core of our beings, and when we need to communicate to the world or express our status in moments of huge emotional pain or of emotional challenge, it's really difficult to find the words. So the book comes in to assist us with the nature of how we can breathe, position our voices, center ourselves, and focus the message. And when we do this, we become magnetic. And that was what was so extraordinary about Diana, that she literally, I helped her ignite her radiance, so she became more and more and more magnetic. Thereby, the woman who is oppressed feels that her message is being listened to in those situations that are very demanding, particularly if you're moving into a court case. So the significant thing about my relationship with Diana is that it was completely confidential, which meant that Diana always came to my studio in London's district of Chelsea. And I never went to Kensington Palace, and whenever there needed to be an exchange of information, it was always very deftly dealt with by the patroness who introduced me, who was an amazing woman called Mara Burney, who was the restaurateur of the famous San Lorenzo, which alas is no longer present. And so Diana came to me once or twice a week, depending on if her schedule was agreeable. And she often came to me immediately after she had been to the Chelsea Harbour Spa or Health Club, where she would swim 40 lengths a day. And so she would come to me fully aware of that we were going to be working on the physicalization of all of the concepts that she wanted to live and also to broadcast into the world. One of the most remarkable things I feel about the book is the fact that I have woven within its spell the very essence of the way that I perceived Diana. The book begins with love and it ends with love. And so I answer the unanswerable and I question the unquestionable. In other words, all of those ideas or convictions or questions that we've had about Diana and the nature of her death, the nature of her life, I literally daringly go into a formulation of suggestions about the very essence of who she was. But of course, it's all through my filter, it's all through my perception. I deeply loved Diana. She was an extraordinary human being, but we had this extraordinary empathic union. And so what I tried to do is to conjure that, because after all, the voice of change is about creating an empathic union with whomever we're speaking to, whether this be through the great works of business or communicating in an educational situation, or at this time of great change, of how we can communicate the new ethics of a new neo-paradigm.